Pile into Twitch,
Okay.
which is crazy to even just like think about. But we are live now, and yeah, we'll give everyone a few minutes to just hop in here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you guys are. Cosmic, what's up, buddy? All
Hello.
right, guys, we got a really dope conversation for you today. We're gonna give everyone a few minutes to gather in here before we get started, because we're gonna kick this off by showing you guys something that's going to blow your minds. But I want a nice little chunk of people in here. All right. I would not know how the island is treating me today because I am here with you guys. That's a funny thing. Like I live in Hawaii, and literally Waikiki Beach is less than a mile down the street
Oh my
from my
goodness.
house, and this is literally where my little cave right here is where all my time is spent.
That's lovely though.
Where
Transport me over. Transport me over. I want to hang out on the island.
it's Jonah, where are you actually located?
I'm in Brooklyn right now in New York.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's right. So actually, no, right now I'm on the Lower East Side, but I live in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Super cool. Is there a big or at least like, are you connected with a pretty decent sized AI community out there?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, I'm connected very closely with this one community that I love a lot called New Inc., which is part of the New Museum, which is a contemporary art museum. And they're like a startup incubator that focus on art technology. So there's a lot of AI people in there, and there's a lot of immersive people and just kind of weirdos playing with these toys. And it's a great network. I recommend everyone checks it out. Yeah.
Well, you're definitely in the right company here then, because that is literally all this is a bunch of weirdos playing with these toys.
We do love weirdos, yeah.
We do. We absolutely do, Iritaku. All right, you know what? We are going to get started. So, guys, welcome to a very special Friday guest creator session. They're all special, but today especially because I am joined by the legendary Jonah King. Once again, you might remember him from being on here during the Stevens Tech Institute roundtable, right?
That's right.
So real quick, Jonah, before we dive into anything and get too far ahead of ourselves, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell people who you are and what you do for the group that is not familiar with you.
Sure. So thank you so much for having me, Tyler. It's really amazing to be here with Civitai. Big fan. My name's Jonah King. I'm a visual artist, and I'm from Ireland originally. I've been in New York about 10 years. And I work on with all the weird toys, moving image primarily, but that spans, AI, VR, AR, multi-channel installations, networked video stuff, interactive digital media, the whole gamut really. And so most of my projects are about ways that we relate to ecology and nature and those kind of like big existential questions about where does a body begin and end in the environment. And so I feel like these tools are really good ways to explore those ideas. Yeah, that's it really. I think there's a tradition. I'm from Ireland. There's a tradition of like painters, kind of sublime painters that try to reflect nature and ecology in ways that, and I think I'm sort of trying to do that in the 21st century. That's my goal. Yeah.
Awesome. So real quick, how long have you been a visual artist for? And you went to school for this, correct?
Right. So yeah, I did art school the whole way up, and I started my undergrad 20 years ago, and I was showing pretty much immediately. Yeah, it's crazy to be able to say that. Yeah, it's like 20 years now. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of like changed, and I did a lot of sculpture at the beginning. I did a lot of social practice, so organizing with lots of groups of people that do different kind of cooperative projects. I've done a lot of performance stuff. Really focused on multi-channel video installation and filmmaking for a long time. And then it wasn't until really the lockdown that I started really diving into 3D and generative work. Because I'd been working with actors and production crews and loving it, but then suddenly couldn't, and realized I could kind of recreate some of those scenarios inside of Unreal Engine and inside of Blender, uh, and been doing that since.
Dude, imagine if we had all this stuff that we have now when COVID first happened.
Yeah. We'd have jumped into the singularity by now.
Okay, so um the main thing that I would like to talk about, or at least the place where I would want to start with you, is this project that you had going on called Honey Fungus. And
Mhm.
before we talk too much about it, I want to actually show it to them. Guys, the video is about 6 minutes long, but unless we watch it, you're not going to fully understand it.
Yeah.
However, would you like to just say a few things about it to give some like pretext to what we're going to see here?
For sure. Okay, so this is a video, but it's like a screen recording of a virtual reality experience. So it's a headset that you can pop on, like you can pop on a headset and then you can interact with the objects. And so this is me doing it and kind of screen recording that experience. And yeah, it's a project I worked on for about 2 years. It's funded by the Irish government, and it's exploring like ideas of, I don't know, mushrooms have been kind of having a moment the last few years, and really because of the way science has been able to reveal really fascinating things about mycology and the way the Earth is sort of interconnected by this living internet. So I started thinking about what if we could think about the soil and about these kind of interrelationships as an erotic force, and like what would it like be like to think about those things? And so yeah, there's just some really interesting facts that led to this project. One being, 57% of your cellular mass is not human. You are like a composite of all sorts of beings that probably don't think that they're you, and so where does the self begin and end? And then it features, about halfway through, it features a text that was generated by a collaborator, Su Huang, who made a series of kind of weird poems by combining the Smithsonian Field Research Archives with amateur erotica. So you get this strange poetry that's kind of sexy but has no humans involved. So yeah, that's all I can say about that.
Awesome. Well, okay, I'm gonna have you, Jonah, just while we're playing this, to go ahead and mute your mic
Oh
so
yeah,
that
sure.
they can get the full audio experience with this. And guys, when I start playing this, just give me a thumbs up in the chat that you can hear the audio. But I think I got it all set up, and we should be good to go. So okay, here we go.
And pull the trigger on your controller to grasp it. Place your head into the center of the.
Okay, my bad, my bad. Can you guys hear it now? I think I have to have my okay. I have to have my camera on. Got it. Got it.
There you are. We have been waiting for you. The spores you encounter are portals, vessels of knowledge. The ground beneath you whispers, in tongues you've yet to taste. When a spore comes to you, reach directly inside it and pull the trigger on your controller to grasp it. Place your head into the center of the spore. Spores will speak to you, guide you, carry you where you need to go, where the earth's veins pulse with quiet, intimate knowing. descend, gliding down into the underworld, where life hums in secret. Here, beneath the surface, the earth is queer, a non-binary dance of creation, an erotic pulse that thrums in every grain of soil.
Our mycelium records the world's desires, storing them within the spores you see all around you. The memories are there, waiting, whispering. Reach out, grasp the spores, place your head inside, and listen to the library.
Wait until they're close.
I kiss your clear waters and your aerial palms sunk under me, sucking my continuous hot weather. I start to rock gently against you, and I hear you sighing from the east hills. I pull you closer, and you groan again. The kisses are sweet and fast, and then you shudder against me, your Andean sparrows quaking, and when you finally slow to look up at me, I see that your veil is a wild tumble, and your face is glowing. We're morning in the cypress, and I feel your sage sparrows going down on my glorious view. You pull my cold morning into you, pulling so you were there to hold me still, so you could hold me. My reddish petals are closed, and you want me to suck you and suck you again. I bite into your fine insects and watch you laugh, mesmerized by your rain as it moves slowly down my wild meadowland to the top of my small sand dollar. Yes, you say, as you reach under my heels and squeeze my tight, gentle rainstorms. And then you
Now, help me grow. Touch the controllers in front of your chest. Then stretch your arms out as wide as you can. Then bring them back together again. Repeat this motion like a bellows, breathing life into the earth, pushing the mycelium up the chamber walls. You and I, we interpenetrate. Our bodies weave together in a symbiotic dance. As you move, the mycelium responds, blooming.
We are part of this great web, spreading across the world in silent, unseen waves. pour yourself into me, back into my babbling streams. We will absorb you, disperse you, into our living web. You enter the sun, touch the Oxbow Lake shores. There is no moment when we are not touching. Our leaves caress across the canopy. You thought you were alone, but I am here. I am the gust that sends you upwards. I am the vine curling over your bow.
Now bloom and join the endless sky. Spread your spores, seed the rain, release the myths of finite bodies, of finite lives. In your death, we will rejoin you. Aren't we? Already within you, we send your essence to the soil, to the economy of matter. Surrender yourself in entropic devotion. Know that I am holding you now, and always have been. Let your winds carry us home.
Yeah, dude, that is absolutely wild. So
Thank you.
So real quick, we're gonna need you to explain a little bit more. Now that they saw it, we need a little bit more of the context behind it.
Yeah, sure. Um, so yeah, so I guess I kind of was saying that my all of my art projects are about different ways that we can find things in science, like new research, stuff like that, that really throws off, uh, the most sort of dominant beliefs, cultural beliefs, right? So I was saying earlier that there's a lot of scientific research into mushrooms, and recently it's been showing some pretty wild stuff, like just the scale. So this project is called honey fungus, and the largest single organism that we know of in the world is a honey fungus that spans a whole lot of um, West Canada down into Oregon and Washington State, and it's like a singular fungus that spreads over the whole state. And
Okay.
you can find the little threads, the little hyphae threads, because mushrooms are like the fruiting body of this network that runs through the soil, and you can find the threads, and you can put a electrode into them or a reader into them and find the pulse that will tell you the weather conditions on the other side of the state or whatever. Like they're kind of working as a network, a kind of neural network across the soil. So then there's other stuff like we evolved from mushrooms. So way back, like our great grandparents were mushrooms. And in the 90s, they reclassified mushrooms as a different sector of the animal kingdom. Previously it was part of the plant kingdom. In part because they discovered that they have like essentially sperm that look really like human sperm. There's a chytrid mushroom that like has really similar reproductive. compliments to us, I guess. And so it's kind of turned our sense of nature, I suppose, natural order on its head a little bit, and is continuing to do so. So the impetus for making this project was kind of like a thought experiment. Like, what is this? Like, could we imagine some sci-fi scenario in which there was a mushroom that encompassed the Earth's core, accruing the world's memories, like their erotic memories? And so Audre Lorde is this philosopher I love, talks about this erotic force, which is not really like sexual. Like sexuality is like a aspect of the erotic, but the erotic's like a plane of energy that runs through all things. So I was really inspired by that. And then another thing I think was really interesting was I was reading, there's a guy called James Lovelock who invented the Gaia theory. And he was asked by NASA to determine if there was life on Mars, right? And so he was like, I don't know how I could define life on Mars. And then he thought about it and he thought, well, I guess it's anything that acts against entropy. So if you think about everything's kind of falling apart constantly, if anything's like sort of, so in this case, for example, in the atmosphere, two chemicals in the atmosphere creating heat would be an active force that's not just things falling apart and sort of dying down, right? And so in that case, like life could be considered these gases interacting, and therefore also that could be considered like an erotic force, right? Just like gaseous things. So I'm always looking for things that kind of like make you go like, what is a self anyway? What is a human? Because I think it's kind of useful. I mean, it's fun. It was really fun to make this project. All of the little vignettes are based on different parts of the mushroom's reproductive cycle. And a lot of it is generated with AI. A lot of it is using the poetry that I mentioned earlier. It was also the first time I'd used VR, so I was learning interaction and stuff like that. But mainly I think it was just kind of like, if you start thinking about your body in relationship to landscape and ecology, you kind of start having these quite profound thoughts, and that can lead to some really useful thinking around, like it's very hard, if you think of yourself as part of the whole environment, it's very hard to be kind of bigoted against other people or something, that kind of way that like, if you dissolve your individuality, maybe you think differently about people that you don't like or something.
Does anyone's mind go this direction before they have a really good mushroom trip? Or is this is all like a byproduct of like a moment in time of that, right? At some point. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's a good question for the audience. Has anyone ever seen it for that particular mushroom? Yeah.
It's just, watching that, and I could definitely feel watching it that maybe a bit of the feeling of it can get lost if you're not actually in the experience with the headset on and like experiencing it how it's meant to be experienced, right?
Yeah.
But I've definitely had my share of moments in my life where I could look at it and I could totally see where it was coming from.
Right.
And it no, dude, it's super cool. And so you said that all together took you about 2 years to make?
Yeah, well, I did it in little parts, and it was also, me learning VR in Unreal Engine. I worked with an amazing company called Pariah Interactive, who built out large proportion of it. There was a certain amount of kind of research and thinking about it and working with collaborators. I noticed somebody in the chat said like we can hear Helga, so I'm assuming somebody might know of this project or know about Helga Hansen, who did some of the voice for the mushroom. She's an amazing artist and model and just persona. And so, yeah, and some of the sound, I had friends like Anna Robert Gervalt did like some of the singing. That is the sound of the spores, and that was the tune that she's singing is taken from like a Irish, like a thing called what's it called? I'm blanking. It's like a song that's sung at funerals. So it's kind of got this like deathly type of
Gotcha.
keening is what the word I was looking for. So
What's been the general response from people that actually get to experience it in the headsets?
yeah, I mean, so far people really like it. Like, I think that I've had the kind of fortune to be able to show it a bunch in progress, and then finally round it out. And now it's going to hopefully go to festivals. So that's the next step for the project. And these kind of virtual reality or immersive festivals that a lot of film festivals have as part of their programming. I found that some people are baffled, but a lot of people really are like it's kind of like it kind of polarizes people. Some people are like, okay, wow, what are you doing? That's great. And then some people are just like, yes, this. And I found that it's gathered a kind of hardcore fan base. Because I do agree, like it's built for being in the headset. And so some of the longer, especially at the end, I felt like the longer kind of watching the spores disperse the clouds kind of thing is a really relaxing thing to be in because you're just sort of floating and there's this sound and
That felt like the most calming existential crisis you could have. Like if I like when you start to think about that type of stuff, right? It's that kind of like it's very easy to go all the way into the realm of things you don't really want to think about.
yeah, and I mean, that scene just came from me reading a lot of books on this stuff, and one of the things that I found really fascinating was that like mushroom spores are integral for rain dispersal. So mushrooms shoot their spores into the sky, and then they get into the water vapor in the clouds, and then like water vapor coagulates around the spores and causes rain. So it's kind of like a beautiful way of thinking about interdependence. There's like these things on the floor of forests or whatever, and then they're affecting rain patterns. So it's kind of a very literal interconnection that I inspired that. Yeah.
That question on the screen, is that at all going to be a possibility for people in the future, or is this strictly going to be an installation thing for the time being?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. Yes, yes, yes. So right now it's going to be an installation for a while, and it's PC VR. So there's a few options. One is to kind of release it as such, and then the other one is to condense down everything so that it can live on a headset like the Oculus Quest 3 or something, which would be great. And so yeah, after the film festival process, I'll be exploring that, and I would love to release it on one of the platforms for sure.
Awesome. I think a lot of people would really enjoy that. And I think a lot of people because I think more people actually have headsets now.
Yeah.
Much more than, especially with the new version of the Quest and with things like Apple Vision Pro. I think every year more and more people are actually going to own a headset.
Yeah, and I think, like for me at least, I know that the companies have a kind of vision of everybody using them at their desk job, which I couldn't really imagine. I don't love being in headsets for very long, but for these kind of like weird wild rides, I feel like they do really well. I mean, I think it's a really good medium for that.
See, man, I look at stuff like what you just made and what we just watched, and while I haven't dwelled much into the world of VR because I'm personally kind of waiting for VR to take a much smaller form factor, because I'm just not a big fan of the kind of like current state of it, even though I think VR is going to like the Meta glasses and the Oculus or the Apple Vision Pro. I think every year we're going to see these things slowly get closer and closer till like eventually there's like the form factor we're all kind of hoping for, right?
Where you can just sort of take it on and off as glasses. Yeah,
exactly. I think that's there's no doubt that that's where we're going.
100%. Yeah.
But I look at stuff like what you just made, and I look at all the crazy stuff that I see people making in things like Comfy UI with Animate Diff and all these generative AI art tools. And I just like, I can't even imagine the type of stuff that we are going to be having experiences with in the next like 5 years.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's really like I was just watching back the video as you were showing it, and I was thinking about how there's these kind of like weird beings like moving around in the underworld scene, these kind of multicolored uh, creatures, I suppose. And they were generated using like a really basic GAN that was combining human bodies with mushrooms, pictures of mushrooms, and they come out totally abstract. So like you'll never know that, but I mean it was just kind of how we generated them, you know. And now you could do something like far more advanced, and it's only within, as I said, like 18 months span kind of thing, that you can just go into Discord, jump on Midjourney, or make something in Comfy UI or anything really, and just have something like that really looks like a human mixed with a funny. But it just wasn't, you know, even at the beginning of this project, that wasn't something that we thought was possible. So the acceleration of this, obviously, we see being extreme. And I'm really excited to see when the headsets become, you know, photoreal, almost photoreal AI generation in real time. Like imagine just sitting there and like saying what you want to see and just having it there and being able to. We're very close.
I think we're closer than we all probably know we are, with stuff that the hardware makers haven't actually released or shown yet.
Yeah.
But it's definitely very, very exciting times, because I can just imagine like what this whole thing is like, holding the controllers and reaching out and touching everything, because I've definitely had my fair share of VR experiences where at first I'm like, oh, the graphics aren't good enough to like fully immerse me or whatever. And I put it on, and next thing you know, I'm like bumping into stuff in the living room.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the most exciting things for me, at least, about VR is, you know, I read some of these research papers. There's a lab in Barcelona and university there where they're experimenting with putting you in different bodies and psychologically what that means. And there's something really interesting about how quickly you adapt to a new body. Like if you are put inside, I don't know, like an octopus body, or like I don't know, I've done a VR where you suddenly have hooves, you know, and pretty quickly my brain just went, okay, you have hooves now. You know, I just think it says something really interesting about our minds. It's like when you're dreaming and you're suddenly in a new scenario, and maybe you just kind of get on with it. And so I think putting people in different bodies and different scenarios with VR, and the way that your mind adapts to the new scenarios and the new bodies, is like phenomenologically and psychologically just like fascinating.
So is this primarily going to be the medium that you stick with really exploring, is kind of like the VR realm, rather than like traditional, just like here's the visual?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll give up. I really like doing. I've always just really liked film and video. You know, as a kid, I was an only child, and I grew up beside an experimental video shop, which was kind of weird for like a little village and kind of on the outskirts of Dublin. So I just watched all these art house films by the time I was about 10 years old, and that really is why I do what I do, and I just love like the surrealism of it, and the kind of magic of what you can conjure. And like I think the same with your work, Tyler, like just seeing the kind of, it feels like you're pushing the limits of imagination in a way. And that's really exciting to me. I really love that. So I feel like it's not locked down to one medium. I love that you know, I love film still. I want to make some films that go into film festivals and go onto screens. Yeah, so but I do think VR, it poses a bunch of new questions for filmmakers and moving image people, gamers, particularly around attention. Like you could learn to edit for your whole life, and you could learn about film for your whole life, but then when you start a VR project, you realize none of that really sticks. Like you're to hold people's attention through color and sound. So sort of similar to like experimental theater, or even just magic, like practical magic, you know, like look over here, look over here. And that's a totally different way to tell a story and to bring people into a world. And I think those are interesting creative projects. Yeah.
So from your point of view, given that you actually have like an academic art background, what do you see the positives of AI being in general as it applies to kind of like this medium that you live in? And do you find a lot of people that are kind of that you would consider in the same niche as you with all this? Within that group, do you think there are more people that are pro AI or that are kind of like unsure or bucking against it?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I mean, I think it's been really interesting to see the sort of immediate kind of guttural backlash against AI. I mean, I think that there's real, genuine environmental questions that we can't really avoid. But in terms of creativity, like, I don't see I see people feel like how do I put it? Like for me, I'm really excited about making images and the experience you will have with them. But I'm not really a crafts person. Like I do everything that I make enough to be able to do it, but I'm not like I didn't train my whole life to be an illustrator. And I feel like maybe illustrators feel scared because it's just such a quick way to replicate what they're doing in a different way. But certainly for me and the people that I'm working with and talking to, it's like a really exciting tool. And I also think like there's so far at least, there's just a real sense of collaboration because, I mean, it's really hard to get a prompt that will visualize what you're thinking. So there's always a creative back and forth when you're like thinking of something and like you're trying, like I wanted this kind of blurry white HDRI background for something. And like every time I put it in, it was wrong. And I ended up making up a prompt like milk frothing or something really like left field, and then it kind of got what I wanted, you know. So there's a sort of back and forth that yeah, I think it's just a new tool, and I think every time we've had photography or you know, cars, I don't know, big new inventions that change the world, people have been skeptical, and they're right to be skeptical, but ultimately it just ends up becoming a new discipline and changing the way we think about it. I can totally, from an academic perspective, I can really see really soon teaching an AI class alongside a photography class and a painting class and a sculpture class. Like, I just think that's kind of the way it's going to work. And I think painters are going to be generating stuff and painting them, and they're going to be feeding their own paintings into models. And yeah, I think it's just going to become another medium. That's my position, at least.
Even the possibilities of like, you know, two artists that want to meaningfully collaborate in a way that previously they haven't been able to, and being able to like jointly train a model on the combination of both of your favorite works that you've created, and then use the outputs from that model as kind of like the base for whatever the collaborative project you're working on is. I think there's so many possibilities that people just haven't even like touched yet with it. And it's much more than just like the collaboration between us and the AI, but you know, pulling multiple people into it and everyone collaborating with the computer. I don't know. That's how I really see these things, is like, I'm not telling it what to do. I'm going to tell it an idea of what I have, and it's going to show me what it thinks I'm talking about. And then we have to go back and forth until we find something in the middle that we both agree on.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, there's still people writing novels and reading novels, and there's still people making films after television, and there's still, you know, like it just becomes, there's just more things on the table to explore. And I agree. And a really exciting thing is going to be when we, you know, all the different things you can pour in to create models. Like, I think we spoke about this in the round table, but you know, we've used images, we've used text, but like, what if we used bird migration patterns, or you know, there's just like stuff that there's systems and there's patterns in things that we don't even think about as being pattern systems, like self-organizing molecules, or you know, the movement of water in different temperatures and stuff, you know. And so like feeding that into creating models out of that and understanding patterns that exist in that stuff is going to really show us interesting parts of the world, I think. I hope.
I think so, man. I'm really excited for the direction everything is going. Now that this project has wrapped for you though, and now is like, so you finish this, and now you're in the process of doing the like the showing and having people experience it, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Have you already started on the next thing? Is there a next thing yet? Is there an idea for a next thing?
Yeah, so actually, there's a resurrection of an old project that I'm doing simultaneously, which is called "All My Friends Are in the Cloud." And back a few years ago now, it would be 2017, I started bringing people, 2018 maybe, I started bringing people to my studio. I invited them to my studio to bring people they love, and then they like embrace, and I would 3D scan them and animate the 3D scans and create this kind of spinning, disintegrating effect and put those animations into these television tower sculptures. And that had a bit of a life at the time. And I toured as a project, and I did some work for various companies and um, music videos for people. And so I've always really wanted to be able to scale that. And I invested a lot of time and energy trying to create systems to be able to bring people through and automatically scan them and automatically create these feeds of these images. Yeah, you can see that there. Perfect. If you want to turn the sound off on that and just make, yeah, you can see. So here's a great example. There's a music video for a musician called Ardo Lindsay. He's a great kind of legend of the Lower East Side rock scene. And this is him with his son Noah. And so what I would do is I had them on these kind of moving platform, like spinning Jenny platforms that I was filming. And then I would 3D scan them. And in a moment, you'll see the switch where they turn into a kind of 3D scan. It's coming up in a second. And so the question that I had was, how do I get a lot of people through this? And in 2019, I made a machine with the Illinois State University that would automate this scanning process. And it worked, but like, it's just this, here we go. So now you can see it's like transitioned into a 3D scan. And then slowly over the course of the video, they kind of unravel. But this scan was made with a device called the structure scanner that used to kind of like clip onto the outside of an iPad. And it wasn't that accurate. You can see like it looks like a kind of basic scan.
Yeah, and this is, I just noticed this is 7 years ago.
Yeah, so this is old. And the technology, you know, was not what it is now.
Oh,
And
dude,
so,
you could with especially with what's available with like Gaussian splatting now.
right, exactly. So that's where I'm at. I'm kind of coming back to this project now that the technology's been invented. That, you know, it's kind of one of those things which I think people who work in this kind of new media space come across a lot, which is that they, you know, you spend a lot of time trying to work something out, and then you leave it for a year to do something else, and you come back and it's like built into your phone. You know, so in this case, like Gaussian splatting is now built into phones, and I think there's some people in the chat saying the sound is off, and it's
Yeah, no, I have it muted.
you can check it out on YouTube or on my website if you want to watch with the music.
Yeah, I'll throw the link in the chat for you guys to his website right here.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, I want to start doing it with Gaussian splatting, and I want to scale it so more people can be accrued in this archive in the cloud and fed through these monitors, and I can install it in different places. And I just like the idea of this ever expanding archive of these intimate sort of embraces. Since I made this project like back in the day, you know, people who were scanned have passed or broken up, or people's lives move on, and that's kind of part of the bittersweet.
That was what, as this was playing and as you're talking about it, I was just thinking about like what a cool thing this is to have, of like a moment in your life to be able to like just go back to and revisit in the future, regardless of like things that happen, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that was totally the kind of stuff I was thinking about. Yeah, catching moments in time, exactly.
Dude, there was a Reddit post I saw yesterday. I literally saw it yesterday, and this is apologies. This is a little far removed from like the sentimentality that we're kind of touching on here.
Sure.
But this guy posted um a Gaussian splat he took of his full of his like this car that he loved the day that he sold it, that he had like all these fond memories of, and he said that it took him a painstakingly amount of effort to like gather all the images necessary to make the splat as detailed as possible, and he made a video of it, and you could literally like from the outside of the car go inside, look at the dash, look at the ashtray, and it was just like it was all perfect. But it same idea, right? Like who are we to judge what's sentimental and what's not? But
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd love to see that video. That's fascinating. I Yeah, I think, and so just because I saw it in the chat, like Gaussian splatting is kind of an AI version of photogrammetry. So creating like 3D models out of video primarily, but it's just far more photorealistic than photogrammetry is at the moment. So you can the thing that I found with the project that all my friends are in the cloud project is that there's a moment where you realize that they're beginning to disintegrate. And that's kind of the magic moment. And I wasn't able to do that without combining video and 3D scan. Yeah, there you go. Wow.
look how that's crazy.
So good. So good.
Because usually you get to a certain point and then it starts to fall apart, right?
Yeah. Have you seen there's a bunch of people online that have been making Gaussian splats from movie when there's like a pan in a movie or what do you call it, like a track shot in like Quentin Tarantino movies and stuff, they can use it to create a Gaussian splat and then you can like move in and out of the scene. It's really clever.
Dude, this is an area that I would like to venture much further into. I think there's a lot of potential, specifically with the Gaussian splatting technique, with to combine with all the stuff that we do with the tools that we're using. And I don't think anyone has really touched on it yet because the people that are really good at Gaussian splatting, I think, have yet to really come over to the AI side of things.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's also like there are some companies doing it, but AI kind of text prompts to 3D models will be really amazing when it gets really good. You know, it already exists, but I feel like the idea of being able to kind of conjure from text input like a whole 3D environment is going to be great.
But so coming back to your project, so you're planning on like, are you going to incorporate the scans that you already have, or are you going to do like a new bunch?
I think it'll be a new bunch for the next few months, yeah. And then that's kind of the main focus. And then also I want to keep doing experiments with like more like filmmaking with AI and motion capture. So I've been learning a lot about motion capture in Unreal, and then I want to pipe it through into Comfy and see what happens. But that's not really a fully formed thought yet. That's kind of on the horizon. So I'm excited about that too.
Gotcha. Well, if you need any help with the Comfy side of things, you can always reach out to me.
Oh yes, please. Sorry, I love that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jonah, look, before we wrap up here, is there any last words you would like to say to the audience? Tell people where they can find you, all that kind of good stuff, where they can keep up with everything that you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So just check out my website if you're interested in the work, or follow me on Instagram. That's where I tend to post there from time to time. Yeah, and reach out if this stuff is interesting. I'm always curious to hear what people are up to and get in touch with communities, people working on stuff. Because I feel like we're all figuring it out as we go, and it's exciting to see what people are making. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, I dropped Jonah's website in the chat. I dropped the link to his Instagram. Go ahead and give him a follow so you guys can keep up. He definitely has a lot of cool stuff and kind of like work in progress looking type stuff on his Instagram. So, dude, Jonah, thank you so much for coming and chatting with us. I really enjoyed that. I hope the chat really enjoyed that. I'm trying to make an effort to bring people in that, even if it's like using AI in a smaller sense or in a sense that we wouldn't necessarily think of, because we're all very image generation focused, right? But then there's also the entire LLM side of things, and there's just all these different pockets of what would be considered AI.
Yeah.
And I want to show, I want to talk to everyone that's using it to do anything, period.
Yeah, it's so exciting, Tyler, and just I'm really excited to see how you're building this community and all the work you're doing at Civitai. It's amazing. Yeah, it's really exciting. Yeah.
Pretty soon they won't be able to stop us. So
Yeah, exactly. World domination.
that's the goal. But yeah, no, Jonah, dude, thank you so much. And yeah, man. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We will definitely circle back with you when you get a little further ahead the on the next project. Please let me know, and we can jump back in and we can kind of show people like what you're working on as you're working on it.
That'll be lovely. Yeah, I'd love to share. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tyler. It's been really great to chat to everybody. I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Awesome. Real quick before we hop off, guys, just a reminder, next week, Thursday and Friday, we will not be having our streams. Same thing with the following Thursday and Friday. I'm going to be traveling. Next week, though, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you are having a stream with Ali. I believe on Tuesday, Ali is having Astrolite Heart, the creator of the Pony XL model, on for a chat. I'm going to talk to Cosmic Crafter because he's going to join me on a stream, and I think we are either going to do an extra stream Monday or Tuesday at 3 p.m. Pacific, but I'll post it in the Discord and you guys will know. I will make sure that it gets out there for you guys. But yeah, man, Jonah, thank you so much once again. Have a wonderful holiday time, and we will circle back with you sometime in the future.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Tyler. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Guys, have a wonderful weekend. This is Civitai.com. My name is Tyler, aka jbugs.creative. This is Jonah King. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow us at Hello Civitai on all the platforms. And guys, have a wonderful weekend. I'll catch you early next week.